All right, so it is 6:03. Yeah. Nice. So I guess we'll call this to order. Roll call. All right. Harriet?
Yes, here.
Okay. Drew?
Here.
Stephanie? Guy?
Here.
Graham?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
And we know that Linda and Roland are absent. All right, and then me. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We should have 7. Perfect. Approval of minutes of the February meeting. Now, I went through my email. I can only find the meeting minutes from this February 6th of 2024. I don't know if that sounds about right to everyone. We don't have to approve the public hearing meeting minutes, do we?
I have minutes for that because it was a meeting.
We should formally approve that at some point in time.
I sent drafts to Linda, but she may not have time to review it.
Okay, so
Is that printed out, all the recording or the minutes of that meeting, are they printed out?
Yes, but there's no meeting minutes from the breakout, so it's actually pretty
Yeah.
short.
Yeah, okay.
and I know I haven't seen them yet. They haven't been circulated.
Excuse me, but I might say, all the cards from all the tables have been compiled in there, enough document that's been uploaded onto Dropbox.
Oh, wonderful. Did you do that?
No. Lee had somebody do it,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I sent out an email to everybody telling you that it was there
Great.
with links.
Check this.
Oh, there.
So please read your emails more than I do, because I don't read them very well either.
So for February 6th, 2024, do we have a motion to approve?
So motion.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, discussion.
I just think these are really great minutes. They're really, they go in depth into discussions that we had with the interviewees, so I want to commend the minutes taker.
Who was
Lee.
Lee?
And Linda has edits on them too.
I did have one question under it's on the very first page under B, the first sentence. Len Friedson explained that he commented during the previous CRC. I just don't know what that, I can't put that together.
Was he the committee chair?
No, I don't think.
For the,
Or maybe he just meant he commented during the previous CRC. And then he was a
No,
public comment.
maybe he just played a role.
yeah, he said he had some kind of role.
Yeah, he had some sort of role. Do you remember what it was, Craig?
I don't.
He was a spokesperson, I know. Was that? But I guess other people did too. Maybe we could approve it pending that.
Yeah, I'm wondering does anyone else have any other comments on it?
Well, it sounds like.
If I find what it is in the meantime, I'll bring it back up and we can amend them later.
Well, what I'm thinking is, why don't we just approve the minutes with double checking this first sentence against the recording. Is that amenable?
Yeah.
Amenable. So the motion is to approve the February 6th minutes, where I have a question on item 3B. That'll be double checked with the recording and clarified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. February 6th minutes are approved, pending that one point of clarification. And just for my clarification, no one knows of any other February minutes, like was it the meeting with the mayor? Was that weekend?
It was in January, wasn't it?
I think it was February.
It was like right before the public meeting, right? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was February 10th. That should have been.
okay. So we'll have to follow up on those. So ideally, we'd be looking for February 10th from that Saturday meeting. And then there was the Lakewood mayor that morning? Who was before?
Was it Wheeler? Was it Mayor?
No, it was South Euclid.
Is it South Euclid?
We didn't have a Lakewood Unless
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't,
Yeah.
unless I'm missing something, we haven't talked
Mayor
about it
Weiss,
yet,
was
but-
it Shaker? Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
Yeah, that was before the mayor though,
Yes,
same.
Weiss and then Cleveland Heights.
So I have an original draft that I did of the minutes, played a visitation role. I don't know if that's what he said during the interview.
Okay.
Played a visitation.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, they can do that.
Yeah.
We could ask Len. Who role did you play?
Alright. We can just take a quick look at the recording and clarify later, okay. So we need minutes from the 10th and then the 12th, and that's it, right? Were there any other meetings? Was there one on the February 7th as well?
I thought there was.
There might have been.
We had a ton of meetings right in that.
Yes, okay. So I guess just need to sort that out.
Yeah, I have one on my calendar for the 7th, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, well, we probably had them.
Well, and wasn't there an issue where the agenda wasn't published and we couldn't?
Well, that was why it was delayed a day, I think, wasn't it? It was supposed to be on Monday, we
I
had
have
it.
draft meeting minutes I've given to Linda for review for the February 7th meeting.
So there was, okay, so there's a 7th, a 10th, and a 12th.
And well, she has minutes to draft.
There was a
for that.
6th. There was a 6th too.
What we just did.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Just it. Okay.
Okay, thank you all. So item 4, review and confirm or amend the agenda. Are there any amendments for the agenda? Anyone want to remove or add anything?
I'm assuming when it says items 1 to 4, it actually means items 1 to whatever, because
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me either.
Oh, see, and I took it to mean you can do anything after here, but not items 1 to 4. But that's just,
Oh.
was my interpretation. Cause you know, can't go backwards. Saying,
Yeah,
Don't know if it's
I was
right,
the same
it's
as you,
just-
I said, what is this?
okay, and motion to approve the agenda as is?
I so move.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Alright, call for question, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, carries. Thank you very much. Public comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We have a total for 10. I will leave it to everyone's discretion if we wanna give
Kyle.
Keith, Kyle, if you wanna give him 3, 6, or 9 minutes. Because we've got 10 minutes slotted, so.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this is here, okay, so everyone can see me. Yeah, Kyle Herman from Rankin, Ohio. I know you have a full agenda, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to give a quick update on a few things. One is that last week, the Senate had a hearing on their bill that's trying to ban ranked choice voting, but we think that we have slowed this effort down. We had more than 40 groups or individuals from across the political spectrum go and defend home rule, talk about how they need to actually study ranked choice voting instead of rushing to ban it. And it did not come back on this week's agenda, even though the committee met and passed the other bill that they had been hearing. And so we're optimistic that we've at least slowed it in the Senate. We're even more optimistic that we'll be able to stop it in the House. And as opposed to those 40 plus pieces of opponents to legislation, there were 2 proponents of banning ranked choice voting. One was the Secretary of State. The other was an individual named Bob Stein, who came to Rank Vote Ohio last year saying that he wanted to volunteer for us, that he supported either star voting or ranked choice voting as better than the current plurality system that we have now. It has since come to our attention that he has effectively been trolling us by pushing to ban ranked choice voting and also telling everyone that he wants his preferred method of star voting to be considered instead. So if you have any questions about star voting, which I also think it's better than what we have now because it could come closer to having majority rule, but it's essentially an untested system that has a lot of more disadvantages than ranked choice voting does. And then the other update is that 2 weeks ago, I went to the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers Summit in Denver and met with Rob Ritchie and Cynthia Terrell, who send their regards to Harriet. They're two of the leaders nationally on ranked choice voting from Fair Vote and Represent Women. And I told them about your efforts here in Cleveland Heights, and they were very supportive. And I even told them about how they want to know what form of ranked choice voting. I said, well, there's this decision about whether to do wards or whether to try to just do at large. And Rob Ritchie recommended a sort of hybrid model where if you were to have, for example, you could do like 3 districts with 3 seats each, and that could be a way to have proportional ranked choice voting in each of those districts while having the separate, a more diversified representation throughout the city, which I know y'all is something y'all wanted to achieve. And so I know that you're looking at the different options about whether to start, with just instant runoff for mayor or whether to do proportional representation or find something in between. I just wanted to bring that as a potential option and also to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Briefly, I didn't study star voting kind of thing. Can you point out, like, just briefly, a couple of the fact that ranked choice voting, as we've been looking at it, has been tested, has been implemented in a number of communities kind of thing. Are there any places that are actually using the star method?
No, it's all theoretical.
Okay, all right, well, that's a flaw.
Yeah.
And is there anything, I'm obviously being slightly partisan here, but are there other things that you would say, these are the things that make ranked choice voting, other than the fact that it's been road tested, and that sort of stuff that make it,
For 100 years.
yes, yeah.
It's much more intuitive to voters. Like the advantage of ranked choice voting is that some people think, oh, is it a point system? But it's when you say no, it's not. It's just an instant runoff. Like your vote will always stay with your highest ranked candidate who is still in the race. Whereas star voting, you're basically weighting your vote. And so in a time when people want like crystal clarity on how their votes are counted, I think that ranked choice voting gives much more confidence that we're actually increasing election integrity by requiring a majority to win and using an instant runoff to get there.
So, well, not in other words, but what I'm hearing partly is that ranked choice voting is a much more transparent system as well.
It's more transparent than both.
It's more,
What we've got now and-
exactly. It's more transparent than our current system and more transparent than alternatives like STAR.
Well, maybe you could talk a little bit, I went through the slideshow that we had the miscommunication about, and when he presented to us, it was extraordinarily brief, and the slideshow that he would have presented had I gotten that message was much more explanatory. And I'm so
No,
I
that's
so
fine.
regret not you're
It's
not
easier
able to
with
show that.
visuals if
Yeah.
y'all have access
But is there
to the
something else from that slideshow that you'd want to highlight that you didn't talk about that night?
I think that we highlighted how it works, but also how we're fixing a problem with our current system
Yeah.
that does not require a majority to win. And so we're therefore not only are we increasing election integrity, we're giving voters more choice and more voice, which is what they want.
Yeah.
Harriet, forgive me because there've been so many emails. Did you send that slideshow around to the?
No, but I will.
Oh.
If I can technologically figure it out, I will. Yes,
Yeah,
that's a good
Yeah, or
question.
Kyle, would you like to send it to Jonathan or anybody else in the group to share?
Oh,
Or
yeah, how should is there a
would
should
that
to
be
this?
easier?
You send it to me, I think you have my.
Yeah, I'll send it.
That'd be
Okay, you
perfect.
can send it to him. Yeah, okay, and then you'll send it out. Okay.
And then we'll all enjoy it.
Yes,
Please.
I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
No worries.
apologize again because when I went and looked at it, there was so much more in it than what he had.
And it is so hard to figure out to whom are we allowed to send emails at this point. So, Kyle, if you'll send it to Lee and he'll send it to the rest
Sounds
of us, that's great. Thanks for coming
Well,
by.
are there any updates in terms of other places that are now using it?
Well,
since the
so
election?
we just had our time.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to continue? What?
That was 6 minutes that we just hit, I believe, right?
I was just backing into it. It looked like maybe about 6:18, 6:20-ish. So another minute or two, fine. I'm
I just started a timer when
That's awesome.
What a guy.
not to
I was going
stop
off
somebody
that.
doing that.
Come on.
Kyle, that's your cue.
Boulder, Colorado had a very successful run with ranked choice voting recently, and so they'd be a good one to look into. But yeah, also I'm happy to answer questions from any of you individually. I know that you have that thing where you can't all copy each other, but please follow up if you do.
Just a quick question. So if the State House does move forward with banning ranked choice voting, then we're kind of done, right?
Well, actually, there's a strong legal argument that what they're doing is unconstitutional,
Okay.
and so it could be even if you pass it, then you could use it, and if they try to withhold the local government funds, then you could challenge that.
In the courts.
That's what they're doing, they're not banning it because they can't ban it, but
Right.
they're gonna deprive cities of funds.
Aha, right, classic.
So it's effectively,
Okay,
Yeah, they're just trying to coerce cities. Yeah,
gotcha.
So that would probably be challenged by the ACLU and other groups.
probably, yeah.
At the conference you were at, did they talk about how the movement will rise to legal blockades like this?
Yeah, and there is a network of organizations. There's also a ranked choice voting legal roundtable that could help with that. Although this is more an issue of state law than like ranked choice voting law.
I see, okay.
the interesting thing in Cleveland Heights, it would help Republicans.
Yeah, but and the good thing about the conference, by the way, is that we are Ranked Vote Ohio part of this national network that's all about helping each other. Like there are other states that will have it statewide referendums this year that our people will be helping with, so that we can look for mutual aid when we have cities or our state going forward as well.
I just want to offer, please, excuse me, our due date is the end of May.
Okay.
So if there's significant things to speak to us about before, like in April, by April, we'd appreciate you coming back and sharing that information with us.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the end of May, hopefully we're gonna be finished and,
No, we will be
done our
finished.
part.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
We will be finished.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And then I would also appreciate updates from you all about the state of the ranked choice voting portion of your proposals. And if you want to invite me back to be on the agenda, happy to do that as well, or come up and give quick updates as I can.
Kyle, I'm wondering what your offer, when we get to the point where we have crafted whatever we're gonna say about the election thing, if we officially, or I'm not sure how to do this, but it's like if we forward it to you for your eyes on it to say, this looks good, this might be problematic, this is whatever kind of thing. I don't know if we have permission to do that, but if you'd be willing to look at it, and if we can do that, that would be great.
I would be willing. I could also share it with national partners that we have. I also know that Lee has connections to some of the same partners. So if it's appropriate, he may be able to help with that as well.
Okay.
But I believe that any of us can work on any piece of this ourselves, just as long as there's not a majority of us working on it.
Together, you mean,
Yeah,
outside the meeting.
exactly. So if 1, 2, I think up to 4 technically, right, a non-majority
Right.
were to draft language, run it by them and bring it here, that is completely acceptable.
We are now 10 minutes.
So there you go.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right, old business, status of responses. I have no idea. So
Maybe those two things are the.
I haven't seen
status.
anything new on from Maddox, a survey come through or anything, so
No.
I think we'll just probably have to revisit that with Linda,
Yeah, it might be
And Lee.
Linda's inbox, but
right? Okay, so
Is it worthwhile saying that at this point in time, if Mr. Maddox doesn't want to talk to us, I think it's something we should be comfortable with, because we've done an awful lot trying to get his attention and trying to bring him here. And that doesn't, in no way disrespecting Mr. Maddox, I think he might be too busy to come and talk to us, but in any event, I think my sense is that as a commission, we've done our homework that way.
I think so.
But the good news is we haven't wasted any time.
Yeah,
It hasn't-
Yeah.
It hasn't been any time
Yeah.
lost,
just Linda's efforts, I suppose.
except for
And-
Linda.
And I believe Linda is the one working on scheduling Lakewood Mayor George, and so I didn't see an update in the email or anything like that, so I don't know if anyone's heard anything different.
I thought she actually had a date for him. Didn't she say sometime in March? Didn't she say March something or other?
I wasn't.
I think it's a one.
I don't know.
Was it? I think the Lakewood mayor's a woman, or
Oh, that's right. I knew that, I know her. Duh, Megan George. But I mean, didn't Linda say a date before?
I don't recall.
She did say March, but she might not have said a specific date.
All right, well, any reflections on the February 12th public input meeting?
I thought it went really well.
Yeah, I thought it was very successful.
A lot of people came.
Mm-hmm.
Strong turnout.
I saw the cards, so I was looking through them, I can't remember who said about the scanned ones. Cool.
If I might, the cards were scanned and they're available on Dropbox. Thank you very much, Lee.
Yes.
Okay, but also someone, I don't know who it is, but someone took all the text off of those cards and put them into a document, and that document is available on Dropbox as well. So you don't have to look at the cards themselves.
No,
to
I was
see.
looking at Dropbox, so I was looking
Yeah,
at
okay.
whatever was all there.
Yeah, okay.
So thanks for putting that up,
Well,
whomever.
please, it's Lee and his friends, whoever supports Lee. You get lots of support, right, Lee?
Yeah, of course.
Excellent.
What did people feel about like the conversation at the tables? Any just like kind of broad takeaways that folks got?
I was really impressed by the level of just, I don't know, interest, engagement, intelligence. They didn't necessarily, it wasn't a ton of information that people had necessarily, but they worked with, it was just really high quality interaction in my small group.
Yeah, definitely. I found that for the ranked choice voting question, pretty much the entire time was just like figuring out what it was. All right, there wasn't really much discussion of its merits. Like it was pretty much just like, what is this? But it was useful in itself.
My table seemed to, my table sort of self-selected, and they were all like in favor of ranked choice voting. They seemed to have some initial familiarity with it and was able to pick up on the demonstration quite quickly. The one thing I keep hearing that kind of concerns me is the concern that if we move to a hybrid system or if we have ward representation, that it's going to mean an increase of competition for funding. And I'm really sorry that that's how people are perceiving city council interactions. I don't know if there's something we can do to address that or whatever. I haven't experienced that in any councils I've been connected to or whatever as far as that's going, because people realize that you just can't, grab all the money for your award kind of thing. But that does seem to keep coming up as one of the possible drawbacks of a award system or a hybrid system.
Well, by way of explanation, the example of Cleveland has cast a pall over districts completely, because it's not like they're competing for money. They just give themselves a ton of money. And it's walking around, it's, dole out the money to your pals, and some of them are really good about it, but a whole bunch of them aren't. Ken Johnson went to jail over his use of the monies. They just give themselves this incredible amount of money. And so I think, the rest of the county is kind of like, well, you want us to be like Cleveland? And, they seem to be the epitome of, wheeler dealer, I'll slap your back, you slap mine, or whatever that is. And so I think that might cast a kind of a pall over the notions of what districts would do. I don't know.
I guess if we're looking at text that would create a hybrid system or a ward system, whatever kind of thing, we need to find out if there's charter language that could be put in concerning funding, budgeting, competition, that sort of thing. I don't know how that would be done, and it might not be charter appropriate. But if
Didn't University Heights try to put pretty specific language in?
over to you,
Do
Lee.
we have
For
that
which one,
draft?
for wards?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that draft.
And not requiring equal parcel of funds or anything else like that. That would address what Drew
No,
was
nothing
indicating.
about budgeting.
And I don't think equal parceling would be appropriate for the charter because there might be some budgeting cycles where a certain ward needs more money just because of things
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, obviously Noble needs more money than
Yeah,
Fairmont.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, to me, that sounds like not charter, because you'd want it to fluctuate
yeah, right, yeah.
from year to year and whatnot.
All right, so it's just the concern moving forward as far as the perception that this will create an even more feral city council.
What a great word.
Yeah.
I just wanna note that I did some research with the city of Columbus and the way they've dealt with council, and I sent out an email and I gave links to Dropbox, and if you don't have access to Dropbox and you want that material, I can send it to you, just tell me you
It
want.
was in the email.
I will, sure.
Yes, it was accessible in the emails.
Sure, and I just wanna say it was very impressive. The conversations I had were very impressive with people from Columbus, and they've done a really, I think a very credible job of attempting to get both a local representation aspect to their council and at the same time a broad view of the council, having a broad view of the needs and the requirements of the city. So it's worth it's worth giving some attention to. And when we get to that point, when those further discussions,
So they elect them by ward, but they're all at large?
no, they're all at large, but each of the council people is identified with a particular
I see.
district, and they have to, in their case, they have certain requirements. We don't have to have those same requirements on that. But each of them then, so each district has someone to turn to on council who is designated and understands that they're supposed to be the voice for that district.
In reading that over, to me, it seemed in a way the worst of all worlds, because if I were living in a ward and a counselor was going to represent my ward, I would not want the whole city deciding who's going to be my representation. I would want that to be done by my ward. And then also, when you looked at the text about how they were going to set up the wards, they were postulating possibly 3 separate methods of creating wards and that sort of thing. It seemed very cumbersome. And then I don't know what that would do to ranked choice voting if citywide was electing a counselor for each ward in a sense. And it's like, how can you do that at large kind of stuff? So
Yeah.
I just.
It also doesn't solve one of the problems that districts does solve, which is it doesn't reduce the amount of money that you
Exactly,
get.
exactly, yes, yeah. I mean, it was an interesting, ingenious thing for Columbus to do, but I trying to think of it in terms of Cleveland Heights, and I thought, this really, to me, creates more problems than it solves.
Drew, what I want to suggest is that you don't understand what they did, and we can talk about it further.
Thank you,
Because
Lee,
some of the
don't insult my intelligence, okay?
I'm simply saying you don't understand what they've done, because some of the things you've said right here
Yeah.
are contradicting what they've done,
Thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
That's all,
Yeah.
and we can talk about it further if you
Thank
want,
you.
but this isn't really the time that we need to talk about all the
Fine.
details of the Columbus system.
Anything else on the February 12th meeting? All right.
Well, I think that whoever organized it, I just think that it was very well organized, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like I didn't contribute much to the setup of the meeting. So it must have been Linda and you.
Barker did a lot of work.
Who?
Steve Barker did a lot of work setting this, the technical aspects of it.
Barker, did you say?
Barker. Yeah, he's in our,
Oh, okay.
relations department.
Okay, it was just really well organized. It really came out, without a hitch, so I just think that's important to say.
One final question I want to pose to the group. There were a number of city council members and kind of city officials who attended the meeting. And I was wondering if anyone had any thoughts about what their participation at the tables looked like and maybe how that influenced the conversation.
Gail Larson hardly spoke at all. She was at my table. And she didn't vote and she didn't fill out the cards either. Even though I kind of wanted her to, but she didn't.
And I don't know, was it Danny, the new?
Yeah.
So he was at one of the tables, and when I was at that table, he was quiet. He would answer questions, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah, he was at my table too. He
Is that
didn't.
okay?
He was just observing.
Jim Petrus was at my table, but we circulated and so everybody got a chance to talk, so he spoke within his turn. He didn't dominate the conversation or anything. But it was helpful to hear what he had to say, because some of the issues he's dealing with are some of the things we need to address. So it was.
Councilor Russell was at your table.
Yes, and I did find that she did kind of dominate the conversation with regards to the communication question with council. before people had a chance to write down their opinions on the cards, she was emphatically explaining her problems with the communication, which I think they were valid. I didn't have any really problem with what she was saying. It was just, I did note that it was influencing the card opinions.
Yeah, Gail spoke at ours as well, but she was very, hands off. And she didn't write anything down.
Cool, thank you guys.
I could just make one comment in terms of the layout of the room. I think if we do it again, we want to take the breakout tables and maybe move them to the side so they're closer to the mic and the podium and everything. So they're still, it would just have been a little bit easier if people didn't have to look so far away and walk so far and all the rest of it. But other than that, I mean, it was fabulous. Mr. Barker, is that his name, Lee? Anyway, he did a great job.
Yes.
So no criticism, did a great job.
Yeah, I think once we knew the size of the crowd, we were too spread out. There was a huge empty space between the tables and the front. The amplification was a little bit difficult to follow, kind of thing. So just figure out how to make that more flexible next time.
It's a big room.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
We could use a remote mic. Yeah, that's one thing. And he says he had one that was locked up across the street, so that didn't go in.
All right.
Jonathan, try again, huh?
I mean, take your time. I just was not there, so I can't,
That's okay.
just hanging out. I was just looking, I didn't see any revised draft project plan since the last time we reviewed it. There's nothing in the printout because there hasn't been an update since our last review, so I'm not quite sure what this placeholder was or.
Was it this bucket thing that came in the?
No,
Yes, I-
no, it was the actual project plan about what dates we were gonna hit when,
Maybe that's just checking in on the timeline, how we are doing.
so.
Yeah, I think that C and D are basically just holdovers from every agenda.
Right.
All right.
What is the meaning of this exhibit A that we got in the?
That was something that Drew had spoke to.
Well, it's new to me, but I was just looking it over. When we get there, I can address it, kind of thing.
Okay, all right.
I'm curious because I didn't check the city calendar for this. Are we meeting next Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month? Are we scheduled?
March 6th
Okay,
on the agenda says the next meeting.
all right.
Yeah, is that the sixth? Yeah, next Wednesday is the sixth.
As designed, first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, this was a change.
Yes, yeah.
Last week, right?
Okay.
All right, so then we're good, move forward, project plan. Say the. So here's the email by the public, the responses are just being put in the Dropbox, right?
If that's what you prefer,
I'm asking, I don't actually know.
Yeah,
I've
so
seen
I'm
them.
making a PDF out of the emails you received through the CRC website, and I'm just putting them in a Dropbox folder, subfolder called public comments. I was emailing them to you, but I remember earlier a conversation where people said they didn't want them all forwarded to them, so I'll just upload it to Dropbox and
I don't remember that conversation, and
okay.
I've been hearing from people who are saying, you're not seeing my emails, and I'm saying, no, they aren't forwarded to us, and they said, that bothers them.
I've seen the emails.
I mean, I've seen them in Dropbox.
When I've seen,
Your emails, in your email from the
No.
public? Oh,
but I've seen all the email comments come through. I don't know if it's with the agenda or I know it's come through the emails. Not
Yeah,
necessarily
there's
Dropbox.
there's seven in the Dropbox.
We all talked about that afterwards.
Okay.
Sorry, it's on the agenda here in terms of protocols for responses, can we discuss that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think to this point, Linda has been the one sole person who's been attempting to give some attention to those, and apparently not all of them, which is why your friends are saying they're not getting a response. Do we want to define a different process for that?
I guess first is, did anyone get a response? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Anybody
Linda would
know?
know
Okay.
because she's been the one who's doing anything.
Gotcha.
if anything is done,
And if I remember, I believe it was her email about this agenda she spoke to saying that she felt we should reply or something,
yeah.
but I don't think she had done anything yet.
Okay,
I thought she said she had sent out responses.
Honestly, don't.
That I don't have the email in front of me, but I thought she had said that. I would like the group, I don't know how to do this. I would like to see the responses before they are sent out in the name of the Charter Review Commission. Because I don't know what how I'm responding.
Well, some of the emails were like, we'd like you to do something about severance. Well,
Yes.
we can't do something about severance, so
Right,
that's the response. I
Yes,
think
yeah.
that's what she was gonna do is,
Yeah,
my recollection is that many of the emails coming in were things that we didn't really have in our purview.
I think that her main thrust around this was, she thought we should there should be a response to everything, even if it was irrelevant and even if we had no control.
Correct.
She seemed more concerned about making sure that people felt responded
yes,
to,
absolutely, yeah.
as opposed to, what it is,
Yes.
how we were gonna respond, so I.
And all those responses are recorded somewhere in our minutes or in the Dropbox or somewhere? Because they are being done as an official response of this commission, which we are all members of.
I don't think they're being recorded.
We don't know that there have been any responses done yet.
So
Linda
they are not
CC'd me on a few from February 14th. Let's see how many there are. One.
So I'm concerned that we are not keeping records of our actions.
Well, I mean,
There's
I-
email, there's a record.
It's in my email, so that's the public record.
Okay,
Can you give us, did you say 7 responses?
1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 6.
Cause I think that's about all the,
Well, there's 7 emails in the Dropbox.
well, there may be, have some, the most recent one I had was somebody who sent in something who couldn't be there on the 12th, but they sent in a response.
Right, yeah.
Oh, 7. So I think she's answered also.
so if we wanted to see what she said to people, where would we go?
I would just send them to you.
Oh, okay.
I can start an email and attach them all right now.
Okay, so Lee will send us the responses, everyone can take a look. Is there any more discussion we wanna have about that right now?
just when Linda comes back, why don't we define like who's gonna do what, when, how? Because responsiveness is really important.
Well, and with Google Voice, it was agreed that that was just an announcement, right? That wasn't gonna accept anything new.
Well, it did, but actually no one ever called. Okay, so it's available, but no one ever made use of it, so it's.
That was a one-way thing though.
Well, no, there was no way that I could see that you could stop the ability or stop the ability for the caller to leave a message. I didn't see that, but anyway. Nobody called.
So next meeting, everyone would like to discuss responses to emails going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
I mean,
Can I, for next meeting, can I also ask that 6B, the reflection on the February 12th public input would also be added again because Roland and Linda are not here and they may have some reflections.
alright, so next on the agenda says continue review of the current city charter. However, under new business, it's getting into the discussion of the draft text.
Is that where we left off? Does anybody know where we left off at our last review session?
Lee, were you or was someone doing track changes digitally? The last, was it the 7th then? You guys did that?
Yeah, I think so. Should go grab us. Is that what you wanna get into next?
I mean, I believe then we can see where you guys left off. Do you remember, was it being done on the screen?
God, I hope so. I mean,
Yeah, as my memory as it was, yes.
Okay.
Wait, is this supposed to be the one with the red?
Yeah, it's under section 4, but this is just
I
specific.
don't have red on mine.
When you get to section
Sure.
4 at the beginning,
sorry.
it's like 10 pages
I'll
up
find you one.
right here.
I did the same thing here.
Cause this is just specific to the vacancies and I believe about the section 4 regarding council vacancies, which is item A under new business.
so we can certainly consider that, I mean, since we've got it in front of us, but I wanna make sure that we know where we are.
This is the 2019, I thought we were in the
Current.
was it the current?
On the agenda, we're in the current.
Yeah, and we've been looking at the current, but Linda has made us look at the red line current, which has been bouncing back and forth between the 2019 and the current kind of thing, so it's been
I mean,
a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to say she's making us. Any of us could say something, so I don't
Okay. Well, I'm saying something.
Okay.
What is this on the screen? Is this the 2019 or the current?
This is the 2019
On the screen.
with our comments, with, I believe, some of the current.
Well, so my understanding is we finished the 2019.
We did,
That one was done.
yes,
So
but we
after-
haven't,
there was another document, and I don't know, did you guys do edits on the 7th?
No, I don't think we did.
the what?
I don't
We
think
didn't
we
do
did.
edits on the
Okay.
7th. I don't think
So
we
the
did.
last time we did edits would have been then
I think we ran out of time.
January, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Doesn't, right?
The thing is, though, that we have comments from the 2019 charter that we need to bring over to inform our discussion of the current charter.
Right.
And I believe there's somewhere in this mess of papers, there's a red line version that has the current charter with some of the 2019. But it may not be the current charter, it may be the old charter before it was revised to have a mayoral system.
Oh, that would make it
It
even more.
was the current Cleveland Heights charter, the second one.
Yeah, but it's just current and it's not updated since January.
That might be it though, I don't.
I think it's-
Jonathan, what was it that you had volunteered to do? You had volunteered to do something.
Oh, I just made sure that everything that was in the minutes prior to Lee joining
Oh, I
us
see.
for the 2019,
Okay.
and it was actually one meeting, it was very simple.
Oh, okay.
So that was just putting stuff from the minutes that Graham took at the time
Okay.
as comments in the charter. Yeah, but it's just the 2019 red line. So I am having a blank here.
2/7.
So there are February 7th dates on those for what that is.
It's just that.
Yeah, okay. All right.
These ones. I think you're working in the 2019 documents.
There.
This is the comparison between the current charter.
Oh wait, what's the second one? The first amended Cleveland with the,
This one?
no, I'm sorry, second Word document. That one. That wasn't what you just had open, was it?
How's your baby? Oh, wow.
She has
Yeah, that's the. I think that's what you were working in.
that she always does.
I don't know.
And then you had the
I can't
compare.
remember. Cause I'm looking back through the different agendas and all of January was talking about the public hearing and I trying to remember the
Yeah, we
last one.
haven't done this for some time.
There were so many interview meetings that it was like trying to go
You had
through
this
it.
comparison, that was red line, that was the current charter compared to that before all of the,
And what is that?
that's what that is.
That's the current charter compared to the 2019?
Yeah, before all of the elected mayor amendments.
See, then that is not the current charter.
What, does anyone remember?
What is the current charter? It just shows the tracking from what's been changed since 2019.
Oh, so
And if you
the,
scroll, you don't have any comments in it,
No
right?
comments on that.
Because I remember working on it, we put comment bubbles in, but can't find it, we can't find
Which I
it.
think was just this one, which is the document that you updated from the meeting minutes.
Yeah, but I thought we were in another one after that. Well, how about we discuss that now since we're all confused?
Say what?
How about we discuss this now since we're all confused?
Yeah,
So we have 2019, we went through the 2019 version. That the
and we
C,
make notes on it.
yeah, and that was that the Charter Review Commission, the previous one, agreed, we went through and either agreed or rejected different pieces.
Yes.
We have that. Then there is also the most current charter that has all the amendments in it, correct?
The what?
The current charter that has all of
the
the,
mayoral,
no, it's the most up to date, yeah, there
Yes.
was the mayoral and there was something, was it the council election or something?
Yeah, council can hire a secretary, that sort of stuff. yeah.
Okay, so do we need to bring the 2019 stuff into the most current?
We need to see it side by side to say,
Yeah.
does this fit in? Because the 2019 cannot go on top of the mayoral without some adjustments. The 2019
Yeah.
was the city manager style, so
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
What you,
why do, well, no,
you
just,
take the 2019 amendments and we just look at those and that's really all we need to focus on.
or we put the 2019 amendments in the current charter and then just look at it. I don't see why I mean,
if we can,
can we? I don't see why
I think
not.
we talked about that earlier at the early meeting.
Well, I can't remember what the problem, there's some stuff in between. but I can't
well,
remember
what is
what
it that we would be presenting to the voters, I guess is the question. You would
We need
be
one final
presenting
charter.
a one charter to the
Yes.
voters and vote up or down, is that our plan?
well,
Well,
that's part of
we
it.
haven't decided that yet.
Yeah, I didn't think we had.
That's one option.
Yeah.
We have not
But I
decided
mean,
that.
one of the
We're voting on
things,
it.
yeah, one of the things might be just to show, I mean, I'm not advocating this, I'm throwing this out for the purpose of discussion. It might make more sense to put out the changes. I don't know, I'm just saying that, putting that on the table,
If we don't,
rather than presenting a document and say, take it or
if we
leave
can't
it.
show how they would work in a charter, then we basically kick the can down the road to the next commission, which will have to write a charter.
I think it's a yes and situation where we both bucket things out into its individual line items and present them all in one unified charter.
Just as University Heights did, they did
But they,
exactly the
no,
same.
they bucketed it. They didn't set one big charter and say, look, these are our changes, take them or leave them. They said, here's 10 buckets, 10 individual changes. So we're talking two different things. We can take the entire charter and say, look, we've made extensive red lines. We want to change the whole system, take it or leave it, city council. Or here's 8 or 10 specific areas where we want to change. Review these city council and then determine what you want to do.
But I think it doesn't have to be an or, because we're talking about the report, as well, right? So in the report, we can include a redlined version of the overall charter.
But if you're only presenting one thing, then they're gonna have to vote on one thing.
Right, but we're not only presenting one thing, all right? Because
But then we're gonna change it individually in buckets like University Heights did. I mean, Lakewood did say, hey, here's the charter, take it or leave it, and their voters approved it.
Uh-huh.
University Heights, the way I look at it, said, here's 10 options with 10 things we wanna change, and then city council determined which ones to take.
So
Lee-
we have
Lee-
we have an additional problem, which is that in 2019, they made all these little teeny changes, gender and archaic language and, it's all these myriad of,
Yeah.
not cutting, not, weighty changes, let's put it that way. And so we have that, that could be, I'm hoping that'll be one bucket, the
I agree.
archaic language, gender neutrality bucket.
Yeah.
Kind of, but.
When the Charter Review Commission made the report to the University Heights Council, they included a charter text as well as the individual proposed changes, correct?
What do you mean?
when they made the report, they had a document saying, here is the proposed charter, including the changes we are recommending. And then they also said, here are the changes we recommend and here are the reasons kind of stuff. When I read it, there was a complete text and there was also a breakdown into the various amendments.
So I don't think we had one full charter that was revised with all our recommendations. For each proposal, we had track changes for the relevant sections.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is gonna be very good.
But that's the thing, but those are options. We can say, hey, look, we went through the 2019 changes, we went through our current. We think you need to wholeheartedly, add these things and present that to city council. And I think that's an option. Or we could say, look, we think you need to change gender neutrality. We think you need to do issues with the balance of powers. We think you need to do individually. So that's up to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Stephanie?
I think what I'm hearing is like we have like a workflow process problem because we don't seem to know what our process is. And I think that seems to be the issue, and I think that's what I'm hearing from Harriet saying like, well, what are we doing at the end in order to figure out what we're doing now? Cause are we just focusing on these buckets right now? Or are we trying to look at the text as a whole? Cause I can see where when you're like gender neutrality and all these little changes that were in the 2019 one, that's where my mind starts to go to like the whole document. But that's probably where you were coming from in a previous meeting, tell me if I'm wrong, of like, no, we're not doing it line by line. Correct?
No, we can. And those are the options though. So I'm saying
Okay.
those are the two things we can look at.
Right, so I think, yeah, I'm like stating what I've heard so that maybe we can make sense of it. So I think the lack of process has been the issue. Like we don't know what the process is, we haven't agreed on one. So perhaps we need to outline what all the options are and decide, just like this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the fact that we reviewed what they had said before. We knew there was a lot of language and there were some legal cleanups and various things. And then went headfirst into interviews to knock them all out. And now we've in public hearings, so now that we're on the other side, we're kind of like dizzy and going, what?
Right? What? Yeah.
Yes.
And I would suggest that that's really important, we need to do that, but I would suggest we wanna add that to another meeting's agenda as opposed to trying to do that in this discussion.
I would think that we can't review things if we don't know how we're doing it.
I'm sorry, can you say that somehow, that we've spent hours and hours and hours reviewing
Right, but
things
now we
already?
don't know which document to
Yeah,
work
now
from.
we're looking at,
And
what are
that's
we
why,
working on? Which one is we, what have we got in front of us? Where do we put what we're
I
doing?
mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding this current conversation then,
I think that's part of it.
that I'm
No,
misunderstanding.
no.
Okay. No, I'm like so, no, and I mean that
this is
like,
being recorded, but okay.
I mean that sincerely, cause I'm like, well, maybe I did misunderstand. I thought we were having this conversation because we don't know what document to work off
Yeah.
of, so we can't keep doing this until we have this conversation.
Oh,
With all
it's
respect.
different,
Yeah.
it's a different objective than what I thought you were
Yeah.
asking for.
Oh, okay.
Excuse
At
me.
least what I understand is we just found out that we don't have a marker on where we left off in our last review of the current charter.
Well, we think we have one, we just don't, we don't know where it is. I'm
Yes,
maybe
yes.
thinking.
We think we have one.
Somewhere, yeah.
Well,
And no one seems to remember.
We
Yeah.
don't.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think that needs to be part of our process is how are we tracking where we are? So that all of us, those of us who don't have laptops or tablets or whatever kind of thing, can be part of the discussion saying is like, when I get home, I can make a note here saying this is where we left off on this evening kind of thing, something like that.
So you're
Because-
asking for like one document,
Well, I don't,
is that what?
I feel like asking for one document is too much. It's like asking for the One Ring and Frodo isn't gonna give
I
it
was
to me.
gonna say one document.
But yeah, exactly. But I want us to be able to say, here's the line in the current charter or whatever where we left off last time. For those of us who care about the line, I shouldn't put it that way, but
Well,
for those of us who need to have text to work from, I really need to know where we are in the text. We've got some proposed changes to the vacancies kind of thing, which is fine, but is that where we left off?
Yeah.
Well, and if we know exactly where we leave off each
Sometimes I
time, then
dated,
we save
when-
Yeah, you're
save
good at
time.
that. You
well,
did
no,
well.
I'm not good at that, but sometimes I did date when we made it.
Can I
I don't know what documents
Is there
to
a-
work on.
is there a better way to
The
get,
charter compared to current charter? One charter?
No, that's the one I pulled up earlier.
so may I suggest, or ask, is there a better way to get an answer to that question than pausing now and somebody viewing the video of the meeting where we did it and learn and then stop? If that's the critical information to be back, I don't know of another source for that information at this point, and if that's the case, then I suggest that what we wanna do is say, well, we can't do this right now, and we'll go on to do new business.
Well, you know, what I'm thinking along that line, and also Stephanie and Drew and Greg's and everyone that's spoken, everyone at the table, except for Graham.
Just taking it all.
I'm trying to find the minutes, I'm looking through the agendas in the minutes right now to try to
Well-
find where it was.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is we can review the vacancy language and move forward with that. And at the same time, I feel like what we've come across is a very clear unclarity that how are we going forward? You know, so are we gonna take the 2019 and initially, Drew, I was thinking, yes, we'll have it all in one document. But then hearing how University Heights did in the buckets, that just got me thinking of, I don't know if I want it all in one document. And the reason is because then you have to pull them out and you'll have to have multiple versions. You're like doubling your work. It's like you could have one for a bucket on gender neutral language. So the whole charter has gender neutral language. And then another one with just the power of inquiry, let's just say. But it may not have the gender neutral, like, since it's a single issue, we would have to determine how much details in each, because you can't bite off more than one issue at a time.
I hear what you're saying. I don't get the difficulty because if we are working through it and we say, here's a language change that needs to be made, noted, red line or whatever kind of thing, and we're basing this on gender neutral language kind of thing. Here's another one, here's a vacancy issue that needs to be changed, noted, we make that change and go
See,
on.
but-
I think.
And we can give that as a report,
Yes,
but that is not usable for the ballot.
Then just the sheer number of
Because you just mixed two
changes.
issues.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
agree, no, I agree, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
for us, for those of us who need to say, here's the language, it's been thoroughly revised with gender neutrality, vacancies, the percentage of voters needed to do the thing. It's all here now, we know it's there, it's all coherent, it all works together. The law department can review it and say, yes, there are no legal contradictions in this text as a whole. And then we know that we can safely put these buckets out there on the next election kind of thing, because we know they all work. That's what's concerning me, is we don't know that they all work together in one document, we may be screwing up.
Well, but they won't be implemented together.
They might be.
Well,
You're right, they could just do it all at once. Here's the
Well, I mean, I think it's a great idea to have a
But-
complete document to present and also buckets.
Sure,
I agree with both of you there. I think that regardless of which one we present to the public, I think that our report should contain both a polished, shiny, new our version of the charter and then a breakdown of the buckets of what we changed specifically. Right? And then like what we actually present to council or to the public, like, I mean, we can decide that later. But I think either way we need both.
to me, I hate to use the term selling point, but as a means of making it clear what these buckets will accomplish, here is the finished project with all the buckets tipped into it and, worked around it. But again, if we don't, I mean, part of the issue right now is that we've got, currently in the charter, we've got inconsistencies. We've got jarring things because they just did a cut and paste with mayor, city manager kind of stuff. I feel, for me personally, as a responsible commissioner here kind of thing, I need to know that the charter that we propose is internally coherent and legal. And the only way of doing that is to have the complete text.
So at the very minimum, it sounds like the most logical next step would be to bring the 2019 changes that we've all agreed to, discussed, or whatever, into the current charter. That sound like the most logical next step.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and
Which
again,
is unfortunately no small task because the 2019 people suggested thousands of small changes,
I mean,
thousands literally.
We have them all redlined.
Yeah, they're all redlined, right,
Which
but-
ones we've approved.
and I haven't taken a look at trying to smash it together, so.
and again, because there were a number of, like, on the screen, there were a number of places where we need more clarification, we need some consultant, we have questions about these things. So it's not like the 2019 is all ready to go. What we did in reading through it is we marked off, sections that we thought were good, but other sections we thought, well, we don't know about this sort of stuff. So there's still an issue there. And we probably won't know until we try the blend, because that's when we will find out where it fits, how it fits, and does it contradict something in the current charter, which again supersedes the 2019 amendments because there were changes made to the charter after the 2019 group finished it.
So it sounds like best path forward, it's, if I'm hearing this right, would be one, let's look at new business items A and B. Next meeting would be perhaps a discussion on the best path forward. I don't know if we'll have a 2019 into current by then because it's in a week, but at the very least we could be very clear and at least have a majority moving forward. Is that something to put on next agenda?
Can we have like a written plan?
Well, we
Our
have a work
process?
plan, but we don't have a work process.
Yeah, like our process.
And maybe we could
I mean, who wants to draft it?
figure out the process, but we do have some time tonight. Why don't we, what about considering Stephanie's proposal for us to decide a process tonight?
Because to me, then we will save time in reviewing. We'll just follow our process and just boom. Get it done.
I have no opinion on the matter. Can I just ask what would have more importance in our meeting for the remainder of this meeting? Would it be completing new business that's in the agenda today, or would it be to discuss this process? Assuming that we would finish one, but not both of those.
The question
If
I
we-
have is, do we want the other two people here for the process discussion or not?
I think it would be good to have a full attendance, full membership attendance to make a decision on that.
I agree. Well, if we put it off to the next meeting, I would like to say, and I guess I'm putting this on Lee and Jonathan, can we find the last text we were working with? Because I know we were talking about, we had that language of moral turpitude, we took it out. I forget it was Greg or Graham found some really good thing about any,
Right.
misdemeanor or offense that would impact that thing. And we said, yes, let's put that in. And Linda said, great, I've got it.
Mhm.
Where did that go?
That was discussed on January 24th, and you
Okay.
ended
Yeah.
with Article 3, Section 4.
Okay,
And go with
and that is somewhere?
Well, then,
On which document, the current city charter?
it sounds like Lee and I need to find it, cause it's either, doesn't appear to be on the Dropbox.
I think
Might be
Linda,
on USB.
recorded it. Like, I think Linda literally hand wrote it,
Yes,
the language around moral turpitude.
yes, but if that didn't get put somewhere,
Right. But she had.
yeah, so
Well,
that's part of the, that's why I'm asking, that's part of the process. It's like anything that is decided, as far as language at a commission meeting goes, has to be recorded in a document, not in somebody's notes.
Well, I think it can be in somebody's notes.
Oh,
Might
sure.
not be a bad
Well,
idea.
didn't
I mean-
you just tell us? What did you just tell
No,
us?
he was looking at the minutes of what we talked about.
Oh, the minutes, sorry.
To find the version, it could be in a couple places and it just can't help you right now.
So in
I
our
don't
future
worry.
discussion and process, I think that has to be that, people are welcome to make notes, and if the chair decides that they are reporting the language change kind of thing, but that has to be put into a document that we can all access, so that if we don't have our notes, we know. And then also to say, this is where we stopped. If the chair wants to make the note about we stopped at section blah, blah, blah kind of thing, that's fine. But then that also has to be public knowledge so that when the chair is not present, we can still do our work.
And I think the Dropbox is the best place for it.
So for today, we move forward with new business and then make sure that we prioritize a process discussion and come up with a written process for in our next meeting. I'm not,
No, I would just suggest if we can finish new business, completely finish new business, we can open the discussion on process. I would say that we shouldn't come to a conclusion and vote on process today because we don't have everybody here, but certainly
Yeah.
productive to have that discussion, bring up the
Yeah.
issues that are important to us, et cetera.
yeah, and that's why I think if we do it next meeting, then everyone,
Yeah, and then
Ideally
next
is
meeting,
here.
we can review all our thinking that we came up with this meeting, and then we can go on and we can come up with a conclusion perhaps. I'm not making any promises for you.
So it's also just to note, in sorting through these, I think that the last time that we had it on the agenda to talk about like actually reviewing the charter was on the February 7th meeting. I don't have the minutes from that meeting, but I assume we but if we did want to actually continue reviewing the charter today, I think we could go from where we left off on the 7th.
February 7th.
That's very helpful, so let's remember.
I don't recall, I don't recall.
I think that we should just go to 6A.
In which case it would be the 24th.
There's not much.
Why don't we try to do new business in the time that we have and see if we can get through that?
I mean, that's what I would vote for.
you mean 7A, Jonathan?
New business.
Sure.
Okay,
Do we need a
I
motion?
would just clarify.
I just have the A. I didn't look at
Okay, just making sure.
I was guessing.
Do we need a motion to?
No, we tried to continue the review. So we did that agenda as much as possible. We found out we can't at the moment kind of thing, so we need to move on to new business.
But we are agreed that we'll return to the process discussion when we get to.
Absolutely. We'll just ignore the man behind the curtain up there. So we did,
So I wanna tell you that I found the comments after all that.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Good.
So just for clarity, where was it?
It is in the current charter compared to the 2019. I think Linda wanted to work in that so you could see the differences between what the 2019 Charter Review Commission was looking at versus what you're looking at. We can put it in a new
Separate
clean
file, yeah.
current one.
What can we call it so that I will actually remember? Anybody?
The only working document we need.
That's fine. I'm not kidding.
Active review.
There you
Make
go.
it something that'll catch your.
yeah.
2024 working document.
Yeah,
Whatever.
there you go, that's a good one, 2024.
Welcome to what my files
So,
look like.
what is, did we,
Those are track changes.
So if you like
I
to
know, but
continue,
what-
this is where you're continuing.
what are the green, there's green and blue, right, or is it just, am I not seeing?
No, I'm Lee, what is this again? It's the current charter?
Current charter, and then all the track changes are what have been added or removed by the amendments following elected mayor. Everything after that.
So
Wait a
it has
minute,
nothing to do with 2019. This is just from the current charter showing
Oh.
the elected,
Really?
the amendments that have occurred to it.
Correct.
That's what Lee just said.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is the
all
track
right.
changes from the current, what was changed in
Yeah,
2019 to current.
And for some reason, somebody decided it was important to know the changes, to make it more visually cluttered to me, basically, kind of thing, so.
So, excuse me, Lee, can you actually state the section that we finished on so that will always be on the record and we will know what we have completed?
Well, I see moral turpitude is still up there, so that hasn't been, so haven't finished that section. The one just,
I was
Number
speaking of
3.
finishing the review when it comes back, we'll have all those notes.
Can't say whether the discussion was finished, but you did discuss Article 3, Section 4
Through section.
on January 24th.
yes, and it hasn't been finished because the changes haven't been recorded. If this is the document where we are recording our changes, is this the document where we're recording our changes? So in
I
other
think
words,
we're back at the, we don't know.
Great.
Well,
Well,
but what he just found was the changes that we were,
Most recent.
changes that we had made, right?
no,
says
these are the
link online.
changes that
These
were made.
comments.
Oh, come.
I don't know that they're.
Yeah, we have to comment on moral turpitude. That's where we had incorporate language from
Yeah.
CRC questions. Dropbox.
Period, as far as I understand it, what we were saying in this document is the changes, the most recent changes made to the current charter.
Right.
Not our changes, but the
Right.
changes that were made with the mayoral thing and the council elects, can hire secretaries.
And wasn't there a third thing? It doesn't matter.
So was but the only thing that has to do with us then are the commentary on the
Yes,
voting.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
So this, in a way, is, I guess, our working document, but it's not a
We haven't
revised
actually made
charter.
it.
No, it's not.
So we still need to figure out what we're gonna do. But at least we sort of know where we are in a way.
Yeah,
So
and
that
my only
that was a really
frustration
good
is.
suggestion, cause it's how do we merge that, cause this has nothing to do with 29.
This has been done before by somebody with average intelligence. I think we can handle this. Okay, I think.
So now that we sort of know what we've got and what we don't have, we were gonna try and do this new business. Should we move on with that, or do we still need to all agree on what we've got and what we would like to have?
I thought that was a discussion for next meeting.
Well, I mean, there isn't very much new business left, right?
I know, but what, it's important to me that tonight we all hear what we've got currently so that it gets recorded, because I don't want to go through this same process next week and say, where are we? Somebody find a document somewhere. So Lee has found the current charter with the blue line, which means the revisions from all the last charter revisions are there, and we've made comments up to January 24th. This document does not have any of the changes we have proposed.
And it does not, it has the charter revisions that have been approved. This is none of the 2019 changes.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
And again, the blue lining is just, that doesn't mean anything other than these are the most recent changes to the charter.
So it does mean something.
Well, it means this is the current charter with some blue type.
Can I ask somebody to read off I can't see it. Can somebody
Yeah, I
read
can't
off
see
the
it
title of that file, just so
Oh,
that I know that it is?
Yeah, it's CRC 2023, review and comparison of current charter to charter as of 7/16/19.
That's not what it's up there.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
In
it
the very
is?
top.
Very up there.
Oh, I can't see
That's
that.
about it, very
Oh, the
top.
top, okay.
As of 7/16/19?
Which is the last time I believe the city's charter was amended or
Amended?
something like that. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
So it's CRC.
So do we want to retitle this so we can find it more readily, or is we gonna kind of remember this is what we've been sort of working on?
I can read it. Or.
No, that's good. It's just, this exists, it's up on Dropbox. So
Oh,
if everything else fails between now and the 6th of March, we know what we can go back to look at, that's all.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm a risk manager type person, so,
Current charter.
not sorry,
Well, that's
that's who I
fine.
am.
That's why I'm suggesting retitling it so we don't have this laborious search anymore.
7/16/19. But we won't have the laborious. Who wants to change it?
I suggest that we ask Lee, who is our really good person in all these affairs, to retitle it and inform us as to the new title of the document. But please don't destroy this document
Nope.
in our records, okay? Because at least we have this to go back to if everything else fails.
What's the new title? Oh, you just like
3/24 active charter review.
2023-24 active charter review. Thank you.
I don't know if that makes sense,
Does it not make sense?
And again, I know the process discussion is for next meeting, but I just want to make sure we have a few ducks lined up kind of thing. So we need at our next meeting to decide, will this be our working text from now on when we try and bring on the 2019 stuff and this and that? We haven't made any changes to this yet. is this the one we want to work on, or do we want to start with a fresh one without blue type and this other thing? That's just a question for next meeting, but I'd like people to be thinking about that so we have a sense of what is our process gonna be. Are we ready to move into the new business?
Let's do it.
So 7A, new business says, discussion of draft text for Article 3, Section 4 regarding filling city council vacancies. So it is the only red line in the first, 6 or 7 pages in.
This is pages, these are the changes that Linda has proposed based on our discussion of, and some input we got from city councilors about changing the phase to appointment, the serving the term, that sort of thing.
If I might, there's a handout that we have today, which looks like this, and it indicates the 3 things that are being reflected in the document we're looking at.
So it says this draft addresses, changes the deadline for, I'm guessing it's city council, to make an appointment from 45 to 60 days. Changes regarding when an appointed city council member must run an election for the seat. It changes the deadline for city council candidates to file to run for a seat from 90 to 60 days before the election. It does not include any changes to who fills a vacancy, if there's a deadlock, and it retains the current language that shifts the decision to the mayor.
Thank you, Lee, for that copy. This is very helpful.
And
So we weren't supposed to discuss this?
Yeah, it looks like we did not discuss this in February 2nd.
Are you, I mean, you did or didn't?
Didn't.
Didn't, okay.
Okay, so the 60 after it's the individual appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve until, I guess this is legally, is the first to occur of. I would just change that to either the expiration of the term or the successor is elected or qualified instead of the first to occur.
Yeah, I would too.
That may be legal language, but.
Either, whichever comes first. You can-
Yes, yeah. And then I would also say, until a successor is elected and qualified by the process following or something
Wait,
like that.
I'm sorry, could you back up and
Sure.
repeat that change? Drew,
Yeah,
I'm sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
So that's okay, so like the 1,
individual?
2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th line,
Right,
the individual appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve until either the expiration of the term of the member who vacated the seat or a successor is elected and qualified.
Whichever comes first.
Yeah, you have to have whichever one
Yeah.
comes first then.
Whichever comes
Well,
first.
I mean, I think the language should just stay the same, the first to occur.
I would vote that it stays the same, but
I think it's,
So it sounds like
people
we have a bit of
don't
a-
understand that as well.
okay,
We should actually
we'll
vote.
change it, but it's gotta have the sequence.
No, I think we should take a vote, just to be clear.
from a legal perspective, that's standard legal language,
Yeah, but-
unfortunately.
So who
But as we
would like
saw
to?
in the 2019 charter, they took a lot of that legal language that people don't understand out and changed it to language that the non-lawyers can understand.
Okay.
So-
And I'm a non-lawyer and I understand this, so I
didn't.
think it's fair.
I didn't.
No, I'm saying, so that's perspective, so.
But the first to occur of is not common language kind of thing. So I would say if we want to keep that in, it's say until the first to occur, semicolon, or colon kind of thing, either the expiration of the term of the member or a successor is elected and qualified. Because the first to occur of the expiration of the term,
Okay,
that's what we've got kind of thing. So it would be, okay, the first to occur, would it be a comma?
It's a
or
colon.
Colon.
Okay,
So-
first to occur.
Yeah, so since there's so much discussion, can we do a motion to adjust the language?
Yeah, cause I tend to agree with Jonathan, I would leave it.
Well, how about the first to occur,
And ultimately, just real quick, if there's an issue and it's argued in court, it's gonna be lawyers figuring it out, it's gonna be judges figuring it out. So that's what it's gonna come down to, and I think the language is,
well, but the issue is the 2019 people went to great lengths to change all this legalese into
right,
understandable English. So then this
but none of that's been instituted in the current charter. You're talking about,
Right, but I think we're assuming that we're gonna be suggesting those changes, most of which are making more understandable the difficult legal language in the charter. It's some of it's archaic, but most of it is legalese that's hard to understand.
If I can offer, I think Drew had a fairly good suggestion there, which is
Yeah.
it just changes the punctuation a bit.
Yeah.
And it just says the first to occur, colon, because now we have a list, and that list consists of the expiration of the term of the member or a successor is elected. And Drew, is that acceptable?
Yeah, and I want to point out that
Yeah.
the first to occur is not in the current charter. This is Linda putting in language.
Okay.
And again, as Harriet said, one of the big pushes in the 2019 was let's eliminate these kind of legal phraseology kind of stuff. And I'm reading that and I'm saying, this is not grammatical. What is going on here? And you said we're all reasonably intelligent people. So if a reasonably intelligent people said there must be something wrong, the first to occur at the expiration of the term, what does that mean?
And
Okay, so,
Well, so the simple fix is
yes.
the colon,
Right,
basically,
Yeah,
So where's the colon again?
after occur.
after occur.
Okay, is there any objection to the semicolon?
So it would be
Just colon.
until the first to occur,
Yep, I know.
colon, either the expiration, so we put in a colon after occur, we take out the oven, we put in either.
Okay, I need a motion on this.
I move that we,
But we've never done motions in any of our,
We've never argued.
I don't think
We have.
Yes, we have.
Have we?
yeah.
I thought at the end of the argument, we were all on the same page, and I'm still not on that page, is what I'm saying.
Okay, but I just feel like you're rushing to motion right here. When we can talk this out a little bit more, I still don't even know exactly what we're
That's
motioning.
my understanding. The point of the motion is to be clear about what we're proposing, and you could discuss it. And if we want to discuss it, that's fine. This is the first time we've not agreed, and I just don't know how to handle it.
I don't know if we've not agreed, we, as Graham said, we're not sure what we are actually saying, so I move that we revise this proposed language to make it the individual appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve until the first to occur, colon, either the expiration of the term of the member who vacated the seat, comma, or a successor is elected and qualified. So that's my motion.
Second.
And I'll repeat it if I went too fast.
Let's just make sure, who's supposed to be taking that down in order to be able to, anybody?
I believe Lee is.
Yeah, it's just
Are you good?
colon,
Lee?
right?
Yeah, it's just a colon and
either.
word.
Oh,
The word changes.
Yeah.
Colon and
So you want to do it one more time, Drew?
Yes.
Thank you.
The individual appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve until the first to occur, colon, either the expiration of the term of the member who vacated the seat, comma, or a successor is elected and qualified.
Period.
Well, I guess, period, yes.
No, I'm not, Drew, it's fine. The period's there, but just, we
Yeah.
won't say it.
yeah.
Drew had been thinking about maybe adding based on the process below, but I feel like that might be a little.
I think so, as long as that follows immediately,
Right.
then it should be fine, yeah.
And for me partially, the push for the motion was that is the clearest we have had.
Yeah.
So that's what it also helps with.
And then
actually
we
know
can
what we're talking
discuss
about.
For sure.
Jonathan, you have our support
For what?
for what you're doing.
Oh, which part? There you go. Okay.
Chairing the meeting.
So with that, is there any discussion about it?
I have a request, and
I
that,
didn't get a second though, I believe.
Harriet second.
Harriet
Oh,
seconded it.
sorry.
I have a request. Greg, you're the attorney who's here on our team. Have what we've done,
Lee is too.
well, all right, okay, so either Lee or Greg, is what we have done somehow Would it somehow cause problems should this come to litigation?
In my opinion, I don't think it changes the meaning of the sentence now. I don't think it makes it any more clear, but regardless, I don't think it changes the meaning of the sentence.
Thank you.
And I guess it's because I'm used to seeing language like this all the time, the first to occur, so.
Yeah, and I think I
Nice by Linda
agree
Road.
with Drew though that like people aren't used to seeing that.
Yeah.
If we wanna make it a more accessible document, then
When I saw that portion of the sentence, my brain kind of like glazed over.
shorts.
Yeah, that's what happens to your brain.
And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm used to seeing this language.
Yeah.
But hearing it all at once, now I can say, okay, I get it, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
And we can vote if there's no more discussion.
I'm fine with it.
Anyone opposed to it, let's do that. All right, that's it, perfect. No, I mean, that is the most intense debate we have had about anything yet.
Can I make a side comment? It doesn't have to do with the new business.
I think you gotta do it in emotion, no,
I motion to make a side comment. Something when Greg and Harriet were talking about like the language thing and how like, well, there's like language changes in the one document and like what are we doing? Can we make a note that we also talk about that as part of the process next week?
Oh, like the
Like-
include like a simplification of language?
Like
That note.
that we just didn't know what we were doing. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, we were talking about this change to the sentence, and Greg said something about the legalese, and Harriet said something
It's-
about the language changes in the 2019 one, and that we weren't sure which one we were working from or something.
So if I'm hearing you right, I think it's kind of like Drew and Harriet were very vocally saying, according to our understanding of the objective, simplify the language.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? So it sounds like the overall, like, one of the goals, simplify the language, cool. And we're all on the
Right,
same
but
path.
which document are we working from? Cause like the 2019, you said something about like the 2019 one
Oh, she
isn't
was just talking
voted
about
on
the
or
work
something.
that 2019
Right.
did.
Oh, yeah, no,
Right.
yeah.
Was a lot of simplification.
Yes,
And
and
treat
but
that as-
that actually hasn't been adopted, so can we make a note for our process conversation that we talk about that? That's what it is. Ding ding ding. Thank you, everyone. I'm not good at working
Sense.
conversations.
You know, that,
Well, and to me, I think of like a goal or objective, like if we all had okay, what are some of the goals, and one of them simplification, then if we knew that ahead of time, we wouldn't have had the discussion, it would have been up. Or if it would have,
I just wanted to make a note of that so that when we talk about process, we know that's part of it.
and I guess just to be crystal clear, there is no discussion over this 45 to 60 days.
No, that was something we heard from city councilors, is that they would like more time before, if we're leaving it, then the mayor breaks the deadlock, then they just get 60 days rather than 45, so that's perfectly okay.
So that first paragraph we are now set with.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Next paragraph, are there any discussion?
I think that incorporates what, again, we were hearing from city councilors, is they don't want to get on and have to run immediately and then run again 3 or 4 months later. So I believe Linda took that into say, expressing that when a municipal election occurs, after, before, this or that sort of thing.
And I think she pulled this language from a different charter as well.
Okay.
is my
Lawyers
recollection.
learn how to steal.
Which charter was that?
Reinvent the wheel. I can't recall which.
Oh, and a charter.
I think she did pull it from a charter, because I vaguely recall discussing some of these options in other charters.
Alright, so I'm gonna appear stupid, or I'm gonna appear less than the most intelligent person in the world. But can somebody help me understand what, if it's 2 years, such election occurs more than 2 years prior to the expiration of the unexpired term, I can understand that, that makes sense to me. But I don't understand the vacancy occurs more than 90 days prior to such election, and then otherwise the individual appointed just serves until the end. What's the 90 days in there? Can somebody help me
So
understand?
my understanding of that is if they were just elected and it was 90 days or less, they don't have to rerun. They can just continue to serve.
90 days, what?
So my understanding is if you were just, the vacancy occurs more than 90 days, then you need to be reelected. If you were elected day 1 to day 89, then you just wait till the end of your, to vacate the seat. You wait till the end of your term. I don't know if anyone else is getting that.
Such election means the election in A, right?
Well,
Oh, the
so,
municipal,
yeah.
no, maybe not.
So if you were, what I thought this addressed was, I was just elected, 10 days later is the next election and now I need to rerun. Is what I thought this was addressing.
Alright, so if they're actually elected 90 days before the election, they have to run again?
If they were if the vacancy occurs more than 90 days prior to such election.
Oh, alright.
But we're talking about the appointment,
Right, okay.
not the election.
Oh, I'm sorry, a successor shall be elected, that's what it is.
Right, so that election is the one following the appointment
Right.
that they're talking about,
Yeah.
okay, that makes
And
sense.
is 3 months enough? I mean, wasn't that their concern is that I just got appointed and I'm immediately having to run again for an election?
Well, they're not running again for the election, right? They're
No, they're
running
not
for the
running
first time for the election, then, right?
Yeah.
'Cause they've just been appointed.
Yeah.
Oh, because the successor shall be
May
elected
not be a long time
by
to
council.
run.
Appointed.
So
That's
Appointed by council.
That's what I'm sorry, that's what.
is there anyone in the room who can describe what this statement means? That's my first question.
Which,
The one we're talking about, the entire statement.
yeah, I mean, it says a successor shall be elected. That means there's a vacancy on council and you need someone next, you need a successor. And in order to get one, you've gotta elect them. How do you elect them? A and B. A is you elect them,
So I feel like what might be helpful is like turning it around a little bit, so like when would they not have to run for election? Once they're appointed, right?
If they would not have to run if there's less than 2 years left in the term that they are filling.
Uh-huh.
More than 90 days before the election.
Yes. And more than 90 days happen. Now, I don't know if that one would, if the second proviso would be needed after the first proviso.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't do
not
that mental arithmetic.
No, I thought that would help understand
Yeah,
the
yeah.
language a little more.
So I think my overall point is we probably need to make it more understandable.
If it's possible.
You know,
I don't know
I mean,
how.
to me, this is as understandable as I think is.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I
Oh,
also
I don't-
clarify, because I think
Yeah.
I think I got some, I think I understand a little more than I did before, which is that what we're trying to do is say that they will serve until the end of the term if two conditions are in place. One, there's more than 2 years left of the term, and the election is coming in 90 days. They don't have time to elect. They don't have time to run for the election, right? So we're giving them, we're recognizing that if somebody.
Aren't those two antithetical? I mean, if there's more than 2 years left.
No, but the thing is that
In the term versus the municipal election. So there could be two time frames, right?
Yeah.
The term and then the upcoming election.
yeah, and what we're trying to do is say that if somebody is appointed and needs to run for the election because of the term is more than 2 years, what's here then is that they are not required, if that election is going to occur within 90 days
Oh, I see.
of their appointment, because it's just not enough time for them to run an election and get elected properly.
Oh, this is saying when council can appoint someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fill a vacancy.
But what I mean, I guess the thing for me was a council can appoint, and what this is saying is, well, if it's more than 2 years prior to the expiration, or there's that vacancy for more than 90, then they can appoint. Every other time you've got to elect them, right?
No. This is saying after council appoints, do they have to run in the next election?
And if the
Right.
next election
Right.
is
Exactly. And this is
less than 90 days.
an attempted fix on the problem that we heard from councilors like Gail Larson, who said, I got appointed and I had to run almost immediately.
Right.
And I have to run again.
Right, and so council is always allowed to appoint,
Yeah.
regardless of when the vacancy occurs. The question is, does the appointee have to run again
Yeah.
immediately?
And I think we're all struggling with is this, the blue line test about A and B kind of thing, is looking at two different calendar types.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
looking at when the next election occurs and
Versus the
how
term.
long they've been an appointee.
No,
I
when their
almost
term
got
would
that right,
end.
I almost got that right. I was that close.
Yes, when the next election occurs, and then how long the term would last.
Because their term could last beyond that next
Right.
election.
Right.
Right.
But we want them to run if they can get elected, but we don't want that if they don't have time to run the election.
For me, I thought it made a little more sense if you gotta take the first paragraph into consideration. So if we say that the individual is appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve until the first to occur, either the expiration of the term or the member who vacated the seat, either the expiration of the term for the member who vacated the seat or a successor is elected and qualified.
Uh-huh.
So the successor has to be elected.
Yes. Correct. And what that means, which is not in there, is that the appointee and somebody else who might want to run for that same seat, they would have to do this according to the second chunk of the thing. So let's say I get appointed, but this text says somebody else can also run. A successor shall be elected for the unexpired term at the next municipal election. That could be somebody else. I might run again. I might run for the seat that I am currently holding as an appointee, or somebody else might run using this same calendar. I think that's why it's important to be in here, because this says that somebody else can run for that seat.
Well, a successor shall be elected for the unexpired term of the next municipal if, and that's where the clauses come in.
Yes.
So if the election occurs more than 2 years prior to when your term's gonna expire. So if you have a 4-year term and in year 3, the council names a successor,
You say year one.
yes, there's 3 years left.
It's just years left.
Then according to this, guess what? You're up for who anybody wants to run against.
Correct.
Which would also mean then that you have to run again
Yes.
at the end of the term. So in that case, that appointee is now running twice in the 2-year period, basically.
Well, you're not running, no, they're not running for the first part. The first part, they were appointed.
Right, but they have to, so then, my understanding is if they're appointed in year 1 of the 4-year term, then they run in the municipal election that occurs in year 2 of their 4-year term, and then they have to run again at the expiration of their term.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
But today, sorry.
Well, no, I'm sorry, no, but when they run for their term, then they have another 4 years.
Correct, but that's the second time they've run.
Yeah,
Right.
But can I think the case is that Gail Larson will have served less than 2 years, all right, having been appointed. Then she had to be elected, and then she has to be elected in the next municipal election again,
Right.
all right? And what we're trying to do is avoid that.
Right.
That if someone actually is gonna serve for less than that 2 years, then they run in the election, then they run, and then they're elected, and then we're done. And that person's done, they don't have to run another time. But if they've served more than 2 years of a term, it isn't, to me, it's not
But this
unreasonable to
wouldn't
say.
change what Gail, cause there was just a small amount of time left in the term.
Right, I feel like what's written here is the Gale problem continued.
Yeah,
well, and
I
I thought it also,
but it may not be, it's not a problem so much from a democracy standpoint.
Yeah, I was gonna
Right.
say what the actual issue is
Yeah,
do we think
right.
people need to run regardless?
Right.
Yeah,
Because the voters need to choose.
Well,
Do you think that's not what is written here?
I don't think
Yeah,
that's what's,
exactly.
okay, I think the problem that we're trying to solve is that Gail Larson may or may not have run for that seat if she realized she had to go for this election and then she has to go for that election.
Right.
So we wanna make sure the pool of people who are willing to serve
Uh-huh.
doesn't become smaller because it's an onerous process. And we're trying to make it,
well, on the other hand, you
Democratic
don't want
and
somebody who's an appointee to serve too long.
right,
And it wasn't, if, an appointee immediately gets the power of incumbency.
I think the point is that the voters should decide.
Yeah. Well, isn't that taken care of, that's saying if you are appointed with more than 2 years to serve, you must run again if you wish to hold that office as an elected thing. That makes sense to me.
Yes, so I do think it solves the Gail Larson problem while still maintaining people like Gail being interested.
Because if I got appointed with less than 2 years, according to this, I would not have to run at the next municipal election. I would serve out the term,
Right.
however long that is, it may be.
It's less than 2
Oh,
years.
It's but it seems redundant because wouldn't the end of your term be at the next municipal
No, it's
election?
not necessarily, right? Because they're staggered
Different
terms.
That's the
timelines.
problem.
Your term.
They're staggered terms.
Right, but if it's not, then you would have to run in the next municipal election
That's right.
anyway.
In order to maintain the stagger of the terms,
Right.
yes. But but you've already had more than 2 years before you had to run the first time.
But this says that you have to run. I feel like this is saying not that. I don't think this is saying
So
Yeah, no, I
a successor shall be elected. That means you've got to elect
gotta run,
somebody
you gotta
there's an election.
for the unexpired term at the next municipal election if the election is more than 2 years. So that person cannot be replaced with it if there's less than 2 years.
That's
Right?
it. If I got
No, that's really,
If I got
A is about the term.
Yeah, if I got
A is
appointed,
about the term, B is about the election.
No, but I'm saying the successor shall be elected for that means that the
I don't know.
body's
Yes,
elected,
yeah.
right?
if I got appointed with less than 2 years left in my term, if a municipal election occurred within that term, I would not have to run.
okay, yes.
So
Yes.
so just to
Yeah.
Makes sense.
let me just, so Drew, you get elected in 2024.
Appointed or elected.
Yeah, that's.
You get elected in you get elected in 24
Okay, all right.
and you have a 4-year term.
I want to thank all the people who made this possible.
No, but
Let
we're
me just let me
talking about
I
an
know
appointee, not an
I know.
elected.
He's working out, he's
We're
working out.
just-
Bear with me, I'm about to knock him out.
I like it.
Yeah.
So in 2024, you get elected, you have a 4-year term.
So
you're supposed to
spend
serve
more
till
time with my
28.
family, okay.
Yes. And so he decided to run away
Yeah.
in 2025. So
Okay.
you've served 1 year.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
And they now say, Harriet, council vets you and says, you get to serve.
Yes.
So Harriet starts in 2025.
Correct.
So she has 3 years to go.
Yes.
So in 2028, Harriet has to run again.
If she chooses to run.
But it should be the other way
Wait,
around. Okay, all right.
let's stay with the hypothetical.
And
So
then,
if she
but
chooses to run,
then you would have to run again in 28.
exactly.
Now,
No,
if
she has to run in 26.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's it.
here's the big
I think
but,
that's it.
so to
that's
speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
If
it.
a municipal election occurs in 26,
She has to.
then she would have to run unless we adopt that.
Even number of years, yes, exactly. She has to run because there's more than two.
And you don't want an appointee serving for 3 years.
Right, however,
Without the election.
if Drew retires in 27 and there's an election in 27, then
or
no,
28.
in 27, the same year,
Or
right?
28.
Or 28.
Yeah.
But like but if Drew retires in 27 and there's an election in 27, Harriet doesn't have to run,
Correct. If she gets
Right.
appointed to fill the vacancy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
and would only then have to run in 28.
Right.
Right, at the end of
Okay.
my term, which,
So
That
is that
makes
what this
sense.
says?
Yes, I
That does
think that
say
is what this says, and I think that does solve the Gail Larson problem in that you're not running 1 year after the other. There's a minimum of 2 years
And so I wanna make sure I've had this conceptually in
between elections.
So let's say, to change things, Drew leaves in September of 26, so it's within 90 days of the 2026 municipal election.
Mhm.
Whoever's appointed then will serve till the end of the term.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, so then they'll
You
serve
don't have to run.
to 28.
Days.
right,
And I believe, if I remember, the 90 days should have been centered around that you need a minimum of 90 days to get on the ballot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or you can't.
yeah, something
With
like
the
that.
idea that it's just,
Yeah, you
it's
have to file.
prohibitive.
that would be a nightmare.
It's prohibitive. So it was also there's no way anyone could. So instead of leaving a vacancy or having them appoint, wait till the election happens, have nobody run.
And forcing them to run in
maybe you should
27. right? Instead, they don't have to run in 27, only in 20.
And both of those have to be true because it says and.
Correct. Cool. Wow, that was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad I could be here.
Well, I could only think of,
Yeah, no,
if we could model it, because
Exactly.
we
works
have been
very
doing math.
We think in narrative terms, we really do, we have
Yes.
to think in narrative
Well,
terms.
and so now Stephanie, no, she's been bringing up a good point, Harriet as well, about the, regardless of how that goes, tough,
You gotta-
run for election.
you gotta run.
Is that correct?
That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I don't feel so stupid, because I wasn't the only one that wasn't clear.
No idea.
It's really hard to
Well, if
think
anyone,
what translates.
Well, so now with Stephanie and here, that you're on the same thing, right? The question is, so practically, this would alleviate some burden. Do we wanna change the charter because it also takes the people's right away to elect every single?
Well, I would argue that we want a pool of qualified people who are willing to do this, and I can just be another voice with Gail Larson, if I interpret her correctly. If I had to run over and over again so quickly, I would say I could probably find something else to do in life. I don't wanna do that. So it's a between, right? It's a compromise. Can you imagine a compromise?
No, I mean, I just would add, just as an aside almost, that the more you run, the better it is for you because you increase your name recognition. So from a politician's standpoint, it isn't necessarily a bad thing to have to run, 2 years in a row. It might even reduce the costs for you because your name is out
use the same
there.
yard signs, perfect.
Use the same yard signs, your name is out there. I mean, from the standpoint of the candidate, it may not be a bad thing, and from the standpoint of the electorate, you want as much democracy as you can get.
So do you think in this situation where Drew retires in September of 26, that you should have to run Harriet in 27?
Well, I'm just saying it as an aside.
You think yes?
I think so.
See, and I think the 90 days, I mean, it's not possible.
Well, that's for the 26 election.
No,
But for
I
the
know.
27,
But
there's no
backwards, so I think.
Elections in 28.
but if there's a municipal election, there could be.
Okay, but then you wouldn't have the 2 years, then you're not,
But
then your
then,
calendar's
I
not
mean,
working.
Okay,
Right.
maybe you don't run in 27 because it's too soon and you run next time and people know who you are and you've already done a little bit.
And the terms here we have is it, how many, everybody has, what's the stagger?
It's
Every
the
2
terms of
years.
4 years and there's an
Three.
election every 2.
3 in 1 year, 4
There could be
right?
municipal
Okay.
elections theoretically, 26, 27, and 28.
Mm-hmm.
So 23, there was 4 out to 20.
No, it's every 2 years.
That's kind of what I found originally.
It's every 2 years.
Next year.
So, yeah, I think it'll be
Municipal
4.
elections are 2 years. It's actually the odd number of years, because then it's not on the same presidential election.
I'd like to propose two different views of democracy. What we're hearing is we want to be sure that the people are choosing who represents them. Another view of democracy is we want to make sure more people are getting involved in government and running for election. So I think what we're doing here would enable more people to run, to apply to be appointed, knowing what they're getting into and that sort of thing. It would be more clear to them that they would not be put to extreme measures in order to serve. So that's the service part of democracy is something we also want to include in this discussion.
And Harriet, in response to your saying about the politician, Harriet, I don't know how many people on the council today are politicians as opposed to public-minded people in the community who want to serve.
Well, maybe I misused the word politician. I'm just saying from the standpoint of somebody who wants to be elected again, whether they're a quote politician or not, it isn't necessarily a bad thing to be running, and it isn't necessary, it could be. It
I
isn't
think
necessary.
it would increase the burden. I mean,
Yeah, it increases-
financially, I think it probably would still increase the
Yeah, it
financial
is.
burden.
It's a burden.
Well, and so do we need a motion to clarify the language and take a vote?
We voted to adopt the change of language in the first paragraph.
But to be fair, we haven't voted for every change of
Yeah.
language. So I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
Stephanie here made this point, so if
Yes,
you
no.
guys want
Believe it.
to call the vote,
We haven't made any changes in the
or
second.
are you good with?
We haven't made,
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
So does this current So does this suggested language currently make it so that there's some like in between, basically?
Yeah, I think
The
this is
idea
in
is to reduce burden on people running if they're appointed by council.
Yeah.
So they're not either constantly having to run, or if it's the vacancy is so close to the election and no one else can file.
Right.
I believe
So if
it's
you
not
look
to
at it-
supplant, it's to allow some slack in this very stringent election process
Yeah.
for appointments and vacancies that happen, right?
So is it clear, so is this true? If the voter doesn't have to endure more than 2 years of an appointee?
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
my understanding.
that's what this is basically.
I mean, I'm fine with that as a voter. I can't speak for other people.
Under the previous system, I think Gail was appointed in 21, she had to run again in 22 and again in 23. So she ran two
That's a
times
lot.
in,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, and if there's.
Right.
and this
Okay.
would do away with that. This would not.
She would have to run twice then,
I'm sorry.
If she was appointed
not 3 times,
in one, she'd have had to run again in 23,
right?
just once.
Right, so this makes,
Run in 22.
this means that you will never have back-to-back elections. The minimum, like the smallest distance is 2 years
Right.
in between elections which I think that makes sense.
And also, I mean, not to get in the conversation, we are not getting into this conversation. But like ranked choice voting or the style of voting too it's not always like the best person wins if it's a pool of candidates, like so
Yeah.
the process itself isn't necessarily as democratic as it could be.
I'm fine with that.
So
Are you sure? Okay,
I move that we adopt the proposed changes to the section 4 vacancies on the current charter with the revised language in the first paragraph and as is in the second paragraph.
There's a third change, that's a 60 days versus 90.
Thanks for jumping in, Guy.
You're welcome.
Guy would like to make a motion.
No, actually, I don't.
I would second all three of the changes as indicated.
and the 90th to 60th, is that just, I can't remember the point behind that.
Oh.
I think you'll probably wanna maintain 90 because that is the deadline for nominations for elections, section 1.
Why did we change it? Why did we say?
I don't know.
That's filing the petitions 60th day before the election. So Lee, you were saying that would violate current election law?
No, I'm just saying that if you look at Article 2, Section 1, the deadline would be have a nomination for election 90 days before the election, so I think you carry probably, sorry, Linda probably picked that day to match Section 1.
But she changed it from 90 to 60.
Yeah, that may have been a mistake.
Well, yeah, that's in her edits, that's why we're,
Oh, okay.
Let's not change it.
Maybe we wait.
So do you wanna approve the first paragraph, the second paragraph, and leave that third paragraph undone at this point in time?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we accept the changes we've discussed in the
Oh,
first
wait,
paragraph.
I'm sorry. So the clarification is that the 90th day is, I don't think there's any voting requirements of the Board of Elections. That was just internally. So we wanted to give people a closer time to submit petitions to the election day, 60 days versus 90 days, which means now you have to file in June, which is 90 days, and this would move it up by 30 days to July. So it just gives
give
candidates
another
more
month
time
of,
to collect signatures to get on
oh,
the ballot.
okay.
That's what it does.
And that doesn't violate election law.
We can locally, we can set those as we want.
I feel like more time seems fine.
I definitely agree, more time's always good. And it would just be good to be aware and stay cognizant of it so that if we run any of the other sections, we just have to align.
And I apologize, but I would second, and I have a pretty hard stop at 8 because I got two girls that are gonna be standing outside waiting for you to pick them up.
Okay.
So,
And it's cold.
Yeah.
Well, how about, is there anyone
Oh,
that's
yeah, it's
opposed to accepting the changes to the first paragraph, second paragraph as is, and note, and the changes in the third paragraph? Alright, everyone's perfect. Thank you all very much.
Great.
3 minutes. Is there
My son was
anything
a
else?
junior in high school, it was the first game of the year in soccer. It was this really rough team he was playing in
No one opposed it.
I was looking
So just really quick before we break, action items.
towards
We're gonna hear from Linda on
Towards the middle.
Maddox and Mayor George's scheduling. We're gonna add reflections on the public meeting to next week's agenda, so we can hear from Linda and Roland. We are gonna talk about the email responses with Linda and maybe formalize a procedure. And then we will continue.
Oh, and so charter review discussion on path forward,
Right, and
Process
process.
forward.
Process.
process forward.
I think that should be like
Yes.
number 1.
Top of the next meeting.
Point 2.
All in the minute.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second the amendment.
Anyone opposed? All for, and that part? All right. Have a lovely day.